Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. If you know anything about me, if you've been watching for a while, you will know that I am a massive Star Wars fan. And yesterday was an incredible day for Star Wars fans for two reasons. Number one, Lucasfilm finally announced a Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries coming to Disney Plus sometime probably in the next 2 years, as well as the first trailer for The Mandalorian finally dropped publicly, and we got to see what that looks like. So I'm very excited about both these things. Let me get into each one separately, and then I'll kind of give my final closing thoughts at the end of this video. So let's get into it. Starting with the Kenobi series. So growing up during the release of the prequels, from the period of 99 to I believe 2005, I was a kid. I was in elementary school. And I loved the prequels. I still do. I understand they're not the greatest movies ever made for a few reasons, but they'll always have a special place in my heart. I think that it is inarguable that Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi was one of the best parts of the prequels. I think even if you don't like the prequels, you can admit that Obi-Wan was good. Ewan McGregor did a great job portraying him faithfully to Alec Guinness's original portrayal. And I think that they can both kind of stand shoulder to shoulder as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And going off of the last few years, an Obi-Wan movie or a trilogy or a series has been one of the most sought after projects that fans have wanted from Lucasfilm, and it never came. And it felt like, this time last year, I think there was a rumor and then nothing came out of it, and it was kind of like an all-time low for hope for it. I mean, I kind of resigned myself to never thinking that it would actually happen, as did a lot of people. And when they officially announced it last night, I was unprepared for how emotional it would make me. Honestly, watching the announcement where Ewan McGregor came on stage with Kathleen Kennedy, it almost brought a tear to my eye. It's seeing a childhood hero of mine that I never thought I'd see play this character again, and just setting in as a reality. It was emotional. It was right up there with seeing Han and Chewie in the Force Awakens trailer all those years ago, and it's special. And I'm very excited this is happening. As for the details we have, it's not much. The series will apparently take place 9 years before A New Hope, which is fairly consistent with the real world timeline. It's been like 15 years since Ewan McGregor last played Obi-Wan, but 10 years is close enough. So he will look properly aged, I suppose, and then they can do additional makeup and whatnot. So that'll be consistent. And as for what this could cover, I mean, that's fairly open. Like I alluded to in a previous episode of, I think the last episode of Real Topics, he probably shouldn't leave the planet, but there's a lot of things he could get up to on the planet. There's a lot of crime on the planet, gangs. You've got Jabba the Hutt, for example, his crime syndicate. So there's a lot of issues that Obi-Wan could face, both externally and internally. I mean, his entire Jedi Order got killed, and he's on the run, and it would be reasonable for him to lack faith in the Force and whatnot, so we could have him have this internal struggle as well. Now I'm just going to run through a few things that I'd like to see in this series. Number one would be, I'd like Hayden Christensen to play Anakin again, either in a flashback or a vision or whatever it may be. I think he's absolutely entitled to a return. I don't think he got a fair deal with the prequels. I think he gets a lot of unwarranted hate, but I do think that started to turn around recently. So I think it would be great for Star Wars to have Hayden Christensen back as Anakin. That'd be another real nostalgia trip for me and for a lot of people who grew up during the prequels. But I think it makes sense. Obi-Wan would be haunted by the quote-unquote ghost of Anakin Skywalker, so seeing him wouldn't be far-fetched at all. And I'd love to see it. This would be priority number one for me. I don't need too much Anakin. I want some Anakin. I think that's a fair thing to ask. The second thing that I'd like to see is Jabba the Hutt and his crime syndicate involved in some way, potentially driving the main plot or whatever problem Obi-Wan is facing. That would be cool to see. You could expand more on Jabba. He was awesome to see in Return of the Jedi, but obviously he died very quickly. So giving that character more expansion and fleshing him out some more and kind of taking a look at his operation would be exciting. Obviously, Obi-Wan can't be identified by the Empire, so having any Imperial involvement would be tricky, but Jabba the Hutt, it would make sense for him not to want the Empire rummaging around Tatooine. So he would, even if he found out who Obi-Wan was, perhaps he would keep his identity a secret, even if they were enemies. And for the third thing that I'd want is just like in general a Logan-esque tone. I loved how the movie Logan looked and felt, and thematically it was great, and just I loved everything about it. And I think Obi-Wan needs to go for a theme like that and a style like that. And this isn't like an original thought by me. I just kind of agree with it because it makes sense. Logan and Obi-Wan at this stage in his life, very similar characters, very similar failures. Their families and orders have been destroyed, and the world around them is a lot different. So this would just be a very interesting way to take a look at Obi-Wan, and we'd see him in a light we'd never seen him before he probably, ultimately rebounds and becomes the Obi-Wan that we see in A New Hope. So those are three things that I'd love to see in this series. Obviously, if I don't get them, I'm not going to be upset. I'll probably enjoy the hell out of this. And we're just going to have to wait for probably 2 years. It's going to shoot next year, so that means it'll probably come out in 21 or 22 at the absolute latest. And the second thing we got yesterday was the first Mandalorian trailer. And I have to say, it looks a lot like Rogue One. I think they use the same cinematographer, which is a great thing. I love Rogue One. It's my favorite of the Disney Star Wars movies. It just looks so dirty and gritty, and it looks like Star Wars. Especially, you get the feel for the Outer Rim Star Wars. Like it makes me feel like just like a newer version of A New Hope, like that kind of look, with better cameras, but same kind of look and feel, and that excites me. And it just looks gritty, and it looks like it's for an older audience instead of for kids. And that's not to say that it's gonna be like rated R or anything. I'm sure kids can still watch it and enjoy it, but I like to see more mature content that isn't like Star Wars Resistance per se. And so that's got me excited, as well as seeing Pedro Pascal again, of Game of Thrones fame, of Narcos fame. He's a great actor. He's going to be our lead. He's going to play the Mandalorian, and I'm sure he's going to do a fantastic job. He didn't say anything in the trailer, but he looked cool. He looked awesome in his suit. Giancarlo Esposito appears to be playing some kind of Imperial remnant. He's got a squad of Death Troopers behind him. He looks awesome. He's an incredible actor. He did a fantastic job in Breaking Bad. One of the best characters, I think, in that show, which is saying something. And to have him in another prominent role like this is going to be exciting. Additionally, you have Carl Weathers. The old great Carl Weathers is in this as well. And that's a hell of a cast. And I am exceptionally excited to see them in the Star Wars universe for hopefully years to come. So overall, I would say yesterday was probably the best day for Star Wars that we've had, maybe since it was announced that Disney was buying Star Wars and that we'd be getting a bunch of new stuff. Disney, hopefully, and Lucasfilm, they hopefully had to just get this period of uncertainty and inexperience out of the way before they really picked up steam. And I feel like they're starting to take steps in the right direction. You have the Clone Wars coming back for a 7th season, the Mandalorian, and then this Kenobi series. And you know what? We'll see. I'm very much more optimistic about the Star Wars property than I was, say, a year ago. So I have to hand it to Lucasfilm. It feels good to be a Star Wars fan. That's all I'll say. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave a like, subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments below. It's completely up to you. Whatever you want to do, I will just be here. Dealing with the fact that Andrew Luck retired, and I'm a huge Colts fan, so as you might imagine, that's painful. So if you could leave a like or a comment, that would take my mind off things, and I'd appreciate that. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Bye!